All right. Welcome, everyone, to our well webinar. We're joined by the inspiring and sometimes controversial Charley.
Sometimes, not all the time, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much. And I know it's just I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad that we don't have the sneaker aficionado distracting us all day. It's just going to be you and me making the max value possible. And I get it. He's in the air. He's important. He's fun. Whatever. Let's get down to the beef today. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we are missing our fearless moderator, Raba. So, we'll make the vibes still high. Maybe not as fun, not as many good analogies. We can never replace Raba's analogies. And Logan has a sick child, so he is unfortunately away as well. So
Yeah.
two important things, but we will be joined a little bit later by Ilya, who has joined us multiple times here, product manager at Triplewell. But super excited to be with you, Charley. Definitely, if you are on Twitter and in the D2C space, you definitely know Charley. So,
Hopefully.
Charley, maybe give us some of your background.
Yeah. So, hey, my name's Charley. I'm founder of Disruptor School. I've been doing D2C businesses for a long time. I got into the Facebook advertising space a little over a decade ago. I've done sort of everything under the sun. I've gotten, I used to have 7-figure daily budgets. I've been using automated rules on Facebook for nearly 7 years. I remember the alpha for automated rules. And so I'm super excited to be covering that here today. And I've sort of been a test pilot for Facebook going back about a decade. I was doing 7 figures before there was a conversion objective, before there was a Facebook pixel. I ran the first lead gen ads, the first DPA ads. I've been around the block 6 times from Sunday. And yeah, primarily what my focus is to make people make this thing easier. More success, less stress is really my biggest focus. And I'm super excited we can cover automated rules because I think it's an essential part of really healthy ad accounts and really healthy account management. And we'll get into it as a little bit teaser, but basically everything I put into the automated rule as being important is, I see very few people talking about these topics. And to be fair, I'm focused primarily on the health and growth of the business and far less on the performance report that a lot of marketers have been taught to value. So I hope we make this easier. I hope we make it simpler for brands to see scale and stability. And also, hopefully, maybe redefine what the job role and success looks like for the people hitting the buttons. And I will give you this. What we're going to cover today is what I use on all of my efforts and has helped me scale plenty of brands for many years. Most recent being Under Outfit, which I was nominated for a Whaley for, although I lost to Renee from Marine Layer. But hey, look, she did 200 million. I'll lose to the woman doing 200 million all day long. And Under Outfit, we use this stuff in last January of 2022, we did 250,000. And now we average over $1 million a week. We did more revenue in January than all of 2021. And the automated rules that we're going to talk about today do 85% of the work. So I don't do hardly anything, which is great.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. Thank you for that quick overview. Ilya, welcome. Hopefully everything's good at the house. Got it figured out. Yeah. At least some buckets. Yeah. Good. Well, I gave you an introduction when you weren't here. So this is our infamous product manager over our Pixel, in charge of all things tracking and rules, which we'll be talking about today. So
fantastic.
Perfect.
So Charley, while we're still waiting for some people to trickle in, I'd love to touch on the point you just brought up. So, I know a lot of your focus online is stop worrying about ROAS and worry more about the health metrics in the business. Maybe give us a quick overview on what some of those metrics look like, and then that will hopefully give some people some time to get in here, and we'll dive into the rules.
Sure. So what I'm primarily concerned about, for me, the golden equation or the golden metric in the growth of any business, direct to consumer, lead gen, SaaS. Because remember, Facebook is software. It doesn't care what your business model is. Neither does Excel or Canva or Grand Theft Auto. It works the same for every person. So what I care about most importantly is what we call PSM, which is profitable scaling margin. And I'm super excited that, by the way, in the custom metrics, I think I'm going to be able to do it on platform, according to the update yesterday in the DMs I had in text messages with Braba. So very excited about that. And that's LTV divided by the sum of CPA and COGS. That ultimately allows us to understand the value of each customer and the cost to attain, the cash flow of each transaction, and the operating cost in order to maintain that relationship. And what that really comes down to is how much more money could I spend per customer to acquire that customer? And as long as there's margin there and I'm able to continually scale up, then I'll always be able to get bigger. And what I'm focused on there more than anything is stabilizing the Facebook platform so that I can spend 2% more next week. If you can do 2% a week, that's 3x a year. If you're a $3 million business, want to be a $10 million business, all you need to do is be able to increase by 2% every week. Maybe a little bit more every now and again. So everything that you look at that is not involved in that equation is ultimately a distraction to getting that done. So that's what I'm primarily focused on. And then when it comes to understanding what's happening inside of the platform, we need to have some context around the volume of data and contribution to total outcome. And those are really where we're going to be coming in. Now, those sound like really fancy words. There's a lot of syllables going in there and some nice acronyms. But it'll actually break down to something that's incredibly easy to execute. And basically, we're going to start managing Facebook like investment bankers. And we're going to focus on the growth of the business rather than how sexy the report looks at the end of the week. Because your finance team doesn't give a damn about ROAS. And you'll never see anybody go on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den bragging about their MER and then get a deal. It's never happened. And they've been around for 2 decades.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. At least maybe behind the scenes, then they cut that because it doesn't matter. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, they probably cut it off. But yeah, I've probably watched over 1,000 pitches because I love the shows. Yeah. I think ROAS has been mentioned 3 times, and none of those people got a deal. So for what it's worth,
love it.
Some context.
What would you say? So one last follow-up question to that. Can you give some ranges as far as maybe more benchmark ranges as far as what like good PSM ratios or numbers look like?
Yeah, I think we want that number to be over a 1. So that we make more money on the lifetime value of a customer than we spend to attain and support that lifetime value. We want the cash flow to be positive, basically. However, what that success looks like is dramatically different from brand to brand, even in the same industry, even in the same verticals. Generally speaking, the higher the margin, the higher the volume of business that you're doing, the lower that number can be. So some businesses can run on 10% margin per customer. Like it cost me $100 to go out and buy $110, and I make $10 net profit, and that's over the lifetime of that customer. And I'm doing that because I'm getting 1,000 customers a day. Great. That's a $4 million business. Fantastic in revenue. Other businesses might need a 2 or 3 return because their volume isn't that high, or because their overhead is expensive in operational costs. And those things come down with volume, and that's ultimately economies of scale. But what I want to really stress is that there is no right or wrong number, and a low number or a high number is not correlated with success or failure for the business. And your needs are going to change throughout the year. As a for instance with that, I tend to focus in Q1 and Q2 on getting my number as high as I can. Relatively speaking, it indexes higher in those times because I want to get the largest. That's when I'm raking in the profits.
Yeah.
during Q3 and Q4, I'm running that as razor thin as I can, investing those profits I acquired from Q1 and Q2 to massively amplify the volume of profitable customer journeys I'm getting, so that when marketing gets more expensive or when things are more difficult, my costs don't actually go up because I'm getting more and more customers coming back and getting a second or a third transaction. So my blended CPA stays really low.
Yeah.
And that's all that really matters.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, that's great insight. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I definitely notice with the top customers that I meet with at Triplewell that Q3 seems to be a very hidden quarter for most. I think we saw last year for the first time spend not increasing in Q3, or sorry, not decreasing in Q3. It actually increased. And when you look at the LTV cohorts, it's just like a money month, because then 2-3 months later, they're getting all of your Black Friday deals, your holiday deals. And so, yeah, to your point, like that LTV is going to increase, which is going to help in calculating that. So I love that.
Yeah.
Good insight.
And with that too, if you can use that Q3 time to acquire customers and then you run Black Friday holiday deals where you're not discounting your products, you're just offering higher ticket bundles to improve AOV, you can get the LTV of the average customer in one transaction, and that might be that person's second purchase. Like what that does to your cash flow is astronomical.
Yeah.
Versus running a bunch of discounts where you're going to lose a battle to Jeff Bezos eventually. And so you're just basically throwing a bunch of pollution into your data set, and then you're going to struggle, and you shouldn't be shocked when cash flow is difficult and all you did was buy the worst value inventory for customers that don't care about you. And that's a huge, huge gap. Like the worst way to scale a business in Q4 and Q3 is to run a bunch of discounts to acquire a bunch of people, because then in Q1 and Q2, when your costs go up, you have no revenue floor. And that's where ROAS and MER will destroy your business, where PSM actually gives you the guidebook to understand the most effective way to scale. Again, 2% a week is 3x. You can probably spend 2% more next week. So let's figure out a way to make that completely automated. And then your job is just to make sure that that keeps happening. And to be fair, we're going to do way more than 2% on this. Like if you do 5, imagine what your $3 million business could be. If 2% goes from 3 to 10, again, I did 200K one month. The next year, it's $1 million a week. That's the potential. And there's honestly no reason that most brands can't do it. I've done that almost every single year with a different business with like an 80% hit rate over the last near decade. So let's make it easy.
It's amazing. I love that. Well, that's a perfect segue into getting into the rules.
Love it.
Before we get into the rules, let's maybe set the foundation. Ilya, will you talk to us real quick? Just what was the inspiration behind wanting to bring rules into Triplewell? And I know we've probably touched on this in the previous webinar, but let's just set the foundation.
Sure. So the reason we brought them into the Triplewell platform is we didn't want people spending too much time clicking the buttons again and again and again and again. And instead, we thought that it makes more sense for them to spend time strategizing, coming up with a strategy, building new creatives, coming up with product bundles, offers, improving their websites, and so on. So if we were able to save you some time and give that time back to you and let you focus on what's really important for your business, that's a win for everybody. We've heard from customers they don't trust Facebook data. That's why they don't want to use Facebook built-in rules. Now, we have Facebook data, we have Pixel data, so we have the rules now in our platform, and you can choose whichever data you prefer. And that was the reasoning.
Love that. Thanks, Ilya. Charley, obviously you mentioned a lot of your inspiration for the rules is to help scale more efficiently. Is there anything you would add to that as we just set the foundation for rules?
Yeah. Scaling efficiently. I think there's 3 things. One, we have to understand what success looks like. I think a lot of people are focused on how do I scale as fast as possible. Hey, this is my dog Barkley. He's going to guess. Okay, he's got his lamp. Okay, got it. Scaling as fast as possible is most people, they think that's great. Or getting funding, they think that's great. That is very toxic to the success of your business. If you want to hockey stick your business, you're going to make a lot of money right away and then probably not have one next year. The far more successful way of running a business is to grow in a way where it's projectable. And that's not just because of money. It's because of inventory, cash flow management, because of operations, customer service, things that break, legal concerns, fulfillment. There's a million things that happen after the click that the marketer needs to understand. If you're going to legitimately grow a business, it's far easier to scale up operations of a company at a steady rate. Also, if your ultimate goal is to exit a business, nobody wants to buy the stock after it's spiked. So if you hockey stick your business, no one will buy it. And your multiple on your exit is going to be terrible. When we can focus on steady geometric growth, it becomes very easy to say, I could have hockey stick this business. I haven't. Buy it from me. Give me a multiple that earns some of that hockey stick. But now that multiple is happening on a much higher baseline and you'll make way more money. So that's part number one. Part number two of this is that scaling requires stability and projectability of cash flow and the platform metrics. So part of this is not only designed to reward stability in the platform in a way where we're increasing the budget and a small enough level that the machine learning is able to handle that initial instability. But also we're going to get into a rule of how do we make sure that we're not investing in assets that are undesirable? Basically, how do we, and we'll get into the flywheel here in a minute, but how do we turn off ads automatically that aren't good for us? And maybe let them come back in, but make sure that our investment portfolio is always averaging at or better than our target. And if the only places we're investing are better than our target, and that defines the margin with which we can invest into, then the investment becomes automatic. So how do we automate both of those things so that our only job is ultimately to do creative testing and to run the business after the click to continue to give us more margin with which to increase the budget? I know it's a lot of technical talk, so I'm going to keep the third part really simple. The third piece here that's, I think, vital is that we're removing the decision-making that happens on a daily basis and using trend analysis so that we eliminate human error and emotion. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be day trading Facebook. It should be done off of week over week, month over month. And it should operate without you having to look at it. Your business should not need you to succeed. You want to be working on the business, not in the business. And this is the way that you do that when it comes to allocating budgets and turning ads on and off, which makes your job as the Facebook marketer incredibly easy. Like, you shouldn't be spending more than maybe an hour or two a week inside of the platform. And this is how you get it done. So hopefully that is as succinct as I could get it without getting too technical.
That was great. No, great work there. Yeah, love that last point. Working on the business, not in the business. So, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And to be fair, I want to say this too. That also goes the same thing for your agency. Even if it's not your brand and you're running a business, like you're running an agency, like you should be working on how do I get a larger ad spend instead of how do I get a better ROAS? How do I turn off all my buttons is far less meaningful than why is my ad spend not more? And if you want to scale your agency, scale your clients and charge them more money. It's phenomenally easier than relying on a sales team. If you need a sales team to be successful, it's probably because you're not good. So let's make it easy.
Oh, love that. Okay, great. Well, let's dive into the first rules then. So here's where you can access the rules engine. So this is only available on Facebook. So just make sure we go Pixel all and then click into Facebook or click on the drop down here. So we'll open up the first one. So we actually have pre-built out Charley's rules that he has given to us that he uses. One of the things we're challenging Ilya and Logan to do is make these as templates within Triple Well. So we'll be putting the pressure on them to do that. So thanks, Ilya, for putting you on the spot on that. I already slacked Logan about it, but okay, perfect. So let's talk first about this performance gate scaling. Charlie, can you walk us through first the why behind it and then actually what it does?
Yeah. So the first part here on performance gate scaling is really to say, at a very high level, we're going to do three things. First, we are mostly concerned with our overall pixel CPA. I'm less concerned with what Facebook CPA is on any given day. I know that Facebook, it might have good days and bad days. I also know that I'm going to be getting repeat transactions or sales from other channels. So if I can worry about my overall net overall CPA, and I'm doing that, if we look here, over the last 7 days, this will take into account changing market behavior, where maybe on one day, 80% of my sales came from Facebook ads, and on the next day, only 20 of them did. If I round that out over a week, I'm going to really understand what's happening. And in Q2, that mix might be very different than Q1 and Q4. So if I have a target allowable overall blended CPA, going back to PSM, and I'm below that target, then I can spend more money, because if I were to increase my budget by X amount of money and get 0 more sales, according to Facebook, I'm still going to get more search volume. I'm going to get greater site visits. I'm going to probably get more emails to sign up, more visitors, more revenue. So it's what we call a total loss investment. And we're basically just going to raise the level of the water so that all ships can rise. And that's how we do it. And we understand we might increase the budget on Facebook. It might take 3-4 days for the search and email and other channels to really see that. But if the rest of our marketing mix is efficient enough that we can invest more, then that's great. So let's take advantage of that. And so that's where this is really coming down to. And I said it was 3 parts. So the first part is really understanding what is our allowable CPA. As an example, if I say I am good according to my PSM, as long as my blended CPA is at a 50, I'm great. So let's say that I'm actually coming in at a 45 over the last 7 days. Then I'm okay. That's 10% below my target. Then I can invest 5% more in the platform. And even if I make 0 money and it's a complete loss, I went from a 45 to a 47.50 average CPA, and my target was 50. So I'm still making more money than I needed to. So when we do that, that's spending into the margin, but not exhausting all of it. And then maybe our costs go up for a day. Maybe they come down. Who cares? Because later that week, if that number still looks good, we can do it again, which brings us down to the second part is we're not doing huge budgets. We want to spend into that margin. I prefer not to make changes more than 2, 5, max 10%. I know people say all the time, "Oh, how am I supposed to triple this business if I'm only doing 20% moves?" It's like, you can triple it by doing 2% a week. And if your business won't be in business in a year anyway, then you shouldn't really worry about this. Like, Facebook's probably not the biggest advantage for you. You're misusing the tool. What I really want to have is even your worst day in 3 months is better than the absolute best day you had last month. And the last piece of this is we don't do it every day. So I prefer to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if it doesn't apply on one of those days, fine. Maybe we increase the budget on Monday and Wednesday, and on Friday it kind of goes down. Like we don't have that margin. Okay, like we increased it a little bit. Facebook got a little bit worse. Take a little bit of a while to see the halo effect of that increase in budget. So what happens? And maybe you see seasonality where the weekend is terrible for your business. So that Monday you never see the push, but on Wednesday and Friday you do. That's also totally fine. Maybe the week is great and the week is terrible and the weekend is great. So it bakes in that seasonality that happens throughout the week into the business. but it means that you never need to actually be concerned about budget again, other than your ability to fulfill that volume of orders and pay off that bill that comes from, your credit card. So we're automating that. So that's really the idea here, is we're letting the performance determine our scaling. And we're going to gate that at roughly 50% of the margin. So the example here, if we're 10% below our efficiency, then we can increase by 5%, and we can continue to do that until we hit some threshold where now we're too close, and we're just going to let it sit for a minute and let the other marketing channels kick in and improve efficiency. And sometimes the way to hack this is, I've increased my budget on Facebook 4 or 5 times. Let me just add more search budget, or send out, improve my emails or my landing page, or get a better creative test. And then all of a sudden my blended CPA drops and I can continue to spend more money.
I like how you're focusing not on getting the lowest possible CPA, but rather just growing the business as long as it's profitably growing.
Yep. And what this means is all of that time we spent trying to get a lower CPA on Facebook, which honestly doesn't matter, is spent on ultimately allowing Facebook to be stable, or letting that CPA that might rise as you increase the budget be okay, because you're getting better at doing your job everywhere else. And that means these hours a week that you're saving, you can invest in doing things that are more meaningful and more stable everywhere else across the business, which is really what you should be doing. Like, you should be able to run Facebook an hour a week. The rest of your job should be worked on. It should be spent. The rest of your time should be spent on improving the business, because that's how you actually make money. If you need Facebook to be successful, your business model is the problem, not Facebook.
Hot take, and I agree. I like it.
There you go.
So one thing we didn't touch on here, and I'll make an assumption here just based on following you on Twitter. I'm assuming all of the campaigns that you set up are CBO campaigns to make this run, to make this rule really work.
Yeah. This is performance gate scaling for consolidated accounts. So this is bringing in, whether you've heard it from me with the one campaign, or Taylor's version of that he started putting out a while ago through CTC, or anybody else that's got their version of this. What we defined back when I was in when we were building the Power 5, which is effectively you only need one campaign at broad using CBO and dynamic creatives to make an account work, whatever that looks like. I will say this: the more complicated your ad account, the more unstable it will be, and the less that this is helpful. Because if you're investing in 5 or 10 places, your investment and increase in one place might make someplace else worse. Just like when people say, well, I run broad and lookalikes, and my broad is never as good as my lookalike. My feedback to them is, what if you turn that lookalike and your retargeting off, and you stop stealing all those sales from broad? How much more stable would you be? What would be the greater incremental lift? Because now lookalikes and retargeting isn't stealing sales from other channels you'd be getting anyway. Maybe your Facebook report doesn't look as sexy, but the bottom line of the business is phenomenally better. So it's really basing around that. These are business owner decisions, not marketer trying to take as much credit for everybody else's work decisions. And I only make that because I was the guy that took credit for, like, I was the ROAS guy. I was the day trading guy. I did all of that stuff. I like 6-figure, 7-figure daily budgets, and doing it this way was phenomenally better. And I had to learn the hard way. And that was like 5-6 years ago. So that's where we're here at now.
Great. Yeah, thank you. One question that brings up, and this might segue into our next rule. So I obviously love broad. I love CBO. I think the one hiccup I tend to come up against is effective creative testing. I know Facebook's smart, and so that's where I like to still go very, very broad in a CBO campaign, and then have another campaign with, ABO that has a handful of broad ad sets, the same exact targeting as the CBO, but then I'm putting in like 3 creatives per ad set there. I know there's some cannibalization, but what would be your counter argument, I guess, about doing something like that?
Sure. I think my biggest argument is that your creative test doesn't actually start until whatever ad you've taken out of that ABO that was lucky enough to earn delivery and some sales at a low volume gets thrown into your primary effort.
True. Yep,
Which means you're also, let's say you're testing 20 ads. And let's say 4 of them are winners. That means you spent 80% of your budget on losing investments.
Yeah.
Which not only is a waste of money, but you're also, with that investment, teaching Facebook that those outcomes are okay. And you've invested a lot of money into ads that were ultimately a bad user experience for the customer, which means your net CPMs across the business and the account are going to go up. Because you as a marketer have ultimately decided to look at insight and performance as your priority instead of your relationship with your business partner. And really, when you view things in that, and I'll be hyperbolic here, when you view things in that sort of selfish manner where you disrespect your business partner as a standard operating procedure, I would not be very surprised when your marketing efficiencies struggle. Facebook is all about end user experience, and marketers that value the end user experience and try to say, I want to buy the highest volume of high quality attention where I can ultimately, hopefully project out the business outcomes, tend to be far more successful. So for those reasons, I wouldn't do it. And ultimately, what you're doing is saying, let's use a basketball analogy. You've got a bunch of high schools, all that eventually push out their all-star students. You're like, hey, this player in high school who hit, puberty early, and they're like 6'9", 250 pounds when they're like 14 years old and they crush. Awesome. Clearly that's an NFL all-star. I'm going to risk my entire, NBA team's future on it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like you're not doing a qualitative analysis of that investment against your proven assets. So being king of high school, peaking early, doesn't mean you're going to be successful in life at all. But you'd rather burn down your relationship and invest way more money in losing assets to try to see what got lucky early. Can I build the growth of my business on it? And that for me is really unstable and produces higher costs and ultimately gets in the way of, if I just had a dynamic creative running against my winners and it earns spend and the outcome is good, great. And if it doesn't earn spend, it wasn't good enough. And if it earns spend and the outcome is bad, great. I understood how to acquire attention, but ultimately I'm not algorithmically aligned with the platform. What it wants to show its people isn't good for me, which means, great, I know this is a bad investment and I can move on. But using dynamic creatives means the vast majority of that budget is going to be spent on the best assets. And so the contribution margin by each asset and with relation to the money that is spent on each ad is much higher to the ads that are best fit. And then ultimately you're going to say, hey, look, the best iteration here got all the spend. Was it good or bad? Because you ultimately can't control the delivery and you can't control where that money is going or what the ads are. So what you need is to make sure that you're giving the machine all of the choices, only good choices to make on your behalf. Like if they were employees at your company, your job is to make sure they have all the tools they need to not need you. But in that style of creative testing that you presented, it's, I'm going to micromanage the development of each employee so that when they go out into the real world, I also micromanaging everything that they do every single day. And well, that's not a very successful way to scale a business. I want it to not need me. Otherwise, I'm never going to grow. And you might say, hey, I'm successful, but that's probably because your definition of success is far less than you deserve.
Well, 5 points for great analogies to support your argument.
Trying to cover my best Rabba here. He's not here
You
to
are.
talk the analogies, so I'm doing my best.
You're filling in well. Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair argument. I think, being a skeptical marketer, I think really the only thing to do is to test it and see how it works. And so I love that. Yeah. Thank you for the pushback and the argument there. That was great.
Yeah, great. And hey, look, if it works for you, awesome. In my experience, there's probably multiple ways to get the job done. But a lot of the folks that I see really focusing on that are also the ones that say, well, my ad costs go up every year. Mine haven't. The ones that say ads fatigue, mine haven't. I have spent millions of dollars on ads that have been run for a long, long time. They've never fatigued.
Yeah.
And they say Facebook is unstable and I can't trust it. I have a very different opinion. And like I said, I've got about an 80-90% hit rate on building 8 and 9 figure businesses for exit over the last decade. And I kind of do it the same way every time because I think there's an objective way to use software in the way it was written. And then we can have a subjective view on how to apply that knowledge.
I love that. Ilya probably loves hearing that as well, being in the product software side. Yeah, that's great. I think that's honestly probably the best pushback I've heard to that. And I think we do very closely align. I think, typically 90 to 95% of my budget's going to those and then a small percentage going to testing. But I think your analogies are solid and really trying it's the best way. I do want to get to the rest of these rules.
Sure. Yeah.
With that, how does Advantage Plus though play in? Because obviously it's kind of a derivative of CBO and just like more or less Jesus take the will for Facebook, like fully.
Sure.
So how does that fit in then with Advantage Plus and CBO?
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing this as a YouTube video because I feel like everybody wants to see it. And I think I'm about 1.5 million into Advantage Plus so far this year. So I've made some mistakes and I was in the alpha and the beta for it, and it's a lot better than it used to be.
100%.
Advantage Plus is a far more aggressive version of conversion optimization and predictive bidding. So it's a conversion objective using some of the logic that we use for cost cap or bid caps. It's more the cost cap side of the tech than it is the bid cap side of the tech when you ask the engineers. And so it will hyperbolically focus where a conversion objective says this person is probably in market. Somebody says this person is potentially interested in buying something, or they have purchase intent, or they've shown some interest in what I'm trying to sell them. More importantly, it's they have an interest in buying things. I've got content they want to see. Let's see if those things pair. That's a conversion campaign. Advantage Plus is saying this person is directly in market actively for this effort. It's effectively advanced matching and heavily relying on retargeting.
Yep.
That being said, it's not necessarily retargeting just for your business. I was running New Balance for a while, not the business, the Facebook side. I wasn't like former CEO of New Balance. And when we did advanced matching, we knew that we did a study with Facebook, and this is like 2017, 2018, and the code is written on very much the same baseline. 2/3 of the budget at Broad with using advanced matching, which is now just automatically turned on. So CBO Broad budget was 2/3 of that budget was spent on individuals that had been on a competitor's website and shown buying intent in the last week. Advantage Plus is a very aggressive version of that. Think of it as, how Instagram shows you a bunch of things you like, but TikTok you can program TikTok AI to basically just give you whatever you want and it'll do it in like 30 minutes. Advantage Plus is very similar. The problem is that if you have bad ads in there, it will force your ads onto people more aggressively so that you are going to see the negative side of pushing spend behind bad ads far more hyperbolically. And thus it creates instability. And it also can manufacture fatigue in a situation which may or may not be necessary. So it's a luxury risk that I don't think everybody needs to take advantage of. And to be fair, what we're talking about here will be more successful and more stable long-term than what Advantage Plus might do for you. Now, maybe you get the winners out of this and the Flywheel rules that we're going to get to, and you can say, I'm willing to spend some of that at Advantage Plus to mitigate some of the instability and to reduce my average cost. But if you choose to only use the most aggressive versions of artificial intelligence that rely on existing data sets and are predictive, you're going to run out of wins, and you're going to deplete that data set faster than you're filling it up. So you get great results, and then they kind of fade off, and then you have to start over, but your account is in a worse place than when you started. And to be fair, Performance Max is basically the same thing in Google. And we see it does great, and then it kind of falls off, and then you have to completely like rebuild. You're kind of setting the house on fire for a limited return. It can be helpful, but I am cautious with it. I generally spend 10, 20, maybe 30% of my budget on it. But that's where the overall volume of conversions I'm getting from it represent less than 1/5. So I have a business where I'm spending about $35K a day on Advantage Plus. We spend 85 to 100K a day in that account. And the conversions from Advantage Plus represent maybe 10 to 15% of the overall sales that occur in the business on a daily basis. So yes, it's depleting the data set faster than it's filling it up, but I've got many other things filling up that bucket of data outside of that Advantage Plus that allow it to be sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Great answer. I think that's exactly what I'm seeing. Is I honestly haven't seen where it's been effective spending more than 20% of your budget. So yeah, that's great. Well, hopefully that sets a framework. I just know that's a frequent question we get a lot right now.
Sure.
Plus, so okay, perfect. Well, let's jump into the next rule. What one would you like to jump into next?
I mean, let's just take the counterpoint to what we just did. We just did increasing the budget.
So do the reduction right here.
Yeah, let's do the reduction, which is effectively the same thing, but we don't need to. I think we've set the table beautifully here, so we can just bang through the rest of these in the interest of people's time. If we're not good, we can always pull back. Yes, if you spend less money, you're likely to be more efficient on the platform because the way that the bid in the ecosystem with estimated action rate, budget, and how Facebook puts the bid together. So theoretically, a smaller budget will get you better opportunity. And really, that's because you're not forcing that ad onto as many people. So if 100 people out of a room of 1,000 like your ad and you can show it to 150 people, 50 of those 150 are probably not going to like it. If you only show it to 75 people, odds are almost everyone's going to like it. So you're going to see greater efficiency. The point here is that is one reason we're not pulling back budget, though, because of that. We're pulling back budget because of our overall marketing media mix efficiency isn't strong enough to support that level of investment currently. And generally, that means maybe my conversion rate is not high enough on my landing page, or my email team just didn't deliver. Like they tried something new, but the test failed. Or, my search campaigns aren't effective right now. Or we have a suite of affiliates and we lost 20% of them and our efficiency isn't as good. Or our influencers this month kind of didn't do a great job. Whatever it is, we can no longer afford that volume of investment with this portion of our media mix. And so we have to pull back because ultimately we cannot pay that much in a blended way to acquire new customer journeys. So it is more, again, health metric, and we're pulling back on budget because there's something else broken in the business. But if you stabilized Facebook, generally speaking, Facebook's not the problem, which is another part of this. Is basically, how do you automate Facebook so that all the problems are somebody else's issue and you're just working on creative testing? Because I love to not be the problem. You know what I mean? Like, it is completely selfish and myopic. How can it be as lazy as possible and make sure everything that's wrong is somebody else's fault? That's what this is kind of built around. But that is just me, which is why I'm not a great agency employee, but I can scale it. I can scale a business to the moon. Product market fit. I'm not the guy. Yeah. But yeah, so this is basically the same logic in reverse.
Perfect.
And again, protecting the business bottom line, which I think really brings us to, let's get to some of the other stuff here real quick. This auto optimization flywheel. So again, this is assuming a control environment. We have a couple parts to this. I think the primary thing here is that, hold on a second. The primary thing here is that we're assuming you have a control environment. So if you're a fan of me and you know the one campaign account, set up with one ad set with all of your winners, and then a couple dynamic creative tests, set up 3-2-2, and all you're doing is setting one environment. If it earns spend and it's good, great. If it earns spend and it's bad, great. You at least know something, and the majority of your budget is going to ads that are good. Well, what happens if one of those ads slips? Or if your definition of success is now no longer 50 is good, but now 45. And so you have to change these things up. What happens? Let's see what happened to an ad. Any ad that falls outside of the threshold of being okay, we're going to get rid of temporarily. Oftentimes we'll see an ad do really great, and then it earns so much more of the budget. Like it was getting $100 a day, and then in a week it's getting like $1,000 a day. Maybe it can't handle that level of work, or it's just not there yet. So in those situations, what we're going to do is slow it down. We're going to turn it off temporarily and say that ultimately there are higher quality investments for us to make. And we have the performance gate scaling pushing up budgets and down. So this is saying, what do we do to make sure that we're not spending too much money in things that are above our target? And to be fair, we are always going to have ads that are very good for our business that might cost more than our target CPA, but they allow other marketing efforts to be more efficient. And that's totally fine. At Broad, you're going to have prospecting and retargeting. Ads will take that function. You can see it in the frequency and the CPMs. There's a whole other thing we can get to on a complete other day. This is like 14 hours of stuff we could open up at any time we want to. But the point here is, at some point, we're going to be too far outside of that threshold. So we want to turn those ads off. So this is basically saying over the last 7 days, if my target CPA is $50 and my ad over the last 7 days is now over 55, so I'm 10% above my allowable threshold, and I've spent enough to get 20 conversions, which maybe that's my daily average is 20 conversions. So saying over the last 7 days, I got enough volume to really understand what's going on, and this thing has slipped above that threshold, I'm going to turn that ad off temporarily. And that means that no bad actor ends up taking too large of a piece of the pie for too long. And I think that that's really important.
But it's possible for that ad to come back after some delayed attribution, right? So
Yeah.
like some conversions that might happen like 2-3 days later.
Absolutely. and that's, kind of looking ahead, let's get to part 2 of this. Is exactly that, Ilya, which is saying, and I've had this happen, I'm sure we've all seen it. The ad was good on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It got a ton of spend and it did poorly. It doesn't mean that's a bad ad. But maybe it spent too much money on a day that was just bad for business. And we don't want to teach Facebook that that's an okay data set. So we take it off the table until the overall spend volume over the last period of time, I like using a week, is roughly 10% of what that threshold was. So if we said our target CPA is $50 and on average we see 20 sales a day, then our threshold is going to be $1,000. And if the spend over the last 7 days is less than $100, 1/10 of that 1,000, let's turn that ad back on. Basically, we're saying, hey, you earned your shot on being on the team. You were good enough to be here. But for whatever reason, you had a bad day or a couple bad days. Go home, get together, come on back. We want you on the team. Just like right now, it's not a good day for you. And this might mean the ad is off for a day or for like 5 days. I've seen an ad like just skyrocket and it just couldn't handle it. Like the account, Facebook tried something, didn't work out. Take it off the table. And that also allows other ads that might not have had a chance because that ad was in market. Other things now have the opportunity to rise to the top. So you're having this constant flywheel. It's also changing the ads in market. That's making sure that things get to stay around for a long, long time. It means that you can have 8 to 10 ads in an ad account, but your threshold is only on the top 3 to 5 or 4 to 6. And if they're constantly there and you're never really seeing these things cycle, you can take the choice of reducing that allowable threshold, or eventually they're going to start getting turned off because the performance gate scaling has been pushing the budget enough. So you're setting a system with checks and balances in a way that completely automated. And now your only job is to do creative testing to put new ads into that control environment. That's literally the only thing you have to do, because we're no longer worried about targeting. We're no longer worried about budgets. We're no longer worried about ad optimization. All we need to do is set a target allowable CPA and creative test. And then Facebook is completely automated. And now this job goes from an entire person's job to a line item that somebody has to check off a couple times a week, which is what Facebook marketing should ultimately be, because the machine is way smarter than any of us. Just set up the factory to not need you, and your job is to make sure that it doesn't break and to occasionally make improvements. The rest of it is just printing money.
Just make sure the factory has the supplies it needs to pump out the end result.
Yep.
So,
and so this basically takes all of Facebook down to, great, now all I need to do is be strategic with my creative testing concepts and work on the rest of the business.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, Facebook is not what scales your business. A successful business model allows you to scale Facebook. And if you can look at the problem with my business is my business model, instead of the problem with my business is that I've been investing in audiences and ABO and ads that fatigue. Basically, I'm making the investment in depreciating assets that are unstable, that create more work and increase my costs over time. Like that's a really bad business model. Like, you can't get rich by buying stocks high and then selling them low and then complain when you're broke. When you could have instead just set up a machine that gets smarter every single day and doesn't need you. And that's the honest truth. Facebook doesn't need you. As a matter of fact, the more time you spend in the platform, the worse you're going to be. Like, it is almost a direct correlation. Time in platform, negative sign, revenue. Like, bad for business. So let's make it not need you. And that's what these rules really do. And this can take your entire ad account down to, I launched the test. Let's see how it's going. Hey, it's been live for a week. It still looks good. Great. I don't need to do anything. Like, if my creative test is winning and my ultimate control, my one campaign is successful, I don't need to escalate a creative test winner. I just need to now say my test isn't to find a winning ad. It's a stress test on how much more spend can this architecture handle. So your creative test might last a month. That's great. That means that you did so well. Literally, your number one job was to not do anything. Like, that's what we should be setting up for, because it means you can spend all of your other time doing things that matter or enjoying life outside of it, which is really why you're making all this money anyway. So yeah, that's, I think, is a wrap up of the ethos of all of this stuff. To not go, I mean, again, we could do 15, 20 hours on all of this thing, and love to do it. But I think as far as the rules engine goes, you knock out these two concepts of performance gate scaling and the ad optimization, and you will have automated 90% of a media buyer's job, which means a media buyer could take that as a threat. And I do get a lot of pushback from folks that have defined their self-worth on their ability to do this job. And I say, great, I can do better and not ever need to do any work. In which case they get really upset with me, which I understand, because of the ego, super ego, and the id, just that self-value. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is being attacked. Or we can take it as an opportunity. Like, maybe that means as a media buyer, you can handle 5 times the amount of clients. Or you can make 3 times as much money, work half as much, and enjoy more of your life. Like, not doing this, it's tantamount to using dial-up to access the internet. Like, we don't send telegrams. You don't need to ever touch budget or turn ads on or off. It's just an obsolete way of thinking. So yeah.
Love it, man.
That's easy. And thank you guys so much for building in the automated rules to make this stuff easy, because I know for a fact I've been on Facebook's. I've been raising tickets and hell with them for 7 or 8 years to get some of this stuff together, and this is more reliable. So thanks.
Perfect.
You made my job easier. And it was already
Thank you.
easy, but now I have more confidence. So thank you.
That's awesome. By the way, today we've added a few more metrics to the rules engine, such as Facebook outbound clicks, Facebook outbound CTR, and unique add to carts as calculated by the pixel. So more metrics to play with.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, I think that'll be interesting. I'll tell you, me personally, I'd be interested to see how people apply those things.
Yeah, well, we had some people reach out saying they want to focus some of their rules on the higher level metrics, like outbound clicks and CTRs. It will be interesting to see how they apply them and what changes.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see that stuff because I've never built my automation around click efficiency or cost or volume because it's completely dependent on CPM, which is completely dependent on your quality of your relationship with the platform and the quality of your content. But if somebody's making it work, I want to see it. I want to figure it out. Like, please, like, let's make it happen. That'd be awesome.
I agree.
I'm one guy with one line of thinking, and I'm not the only successful person in Narwhal Nation. So if you've got that figured out, let me know. I'll try. I'll throw a couple $100,000 at it and see what happens. It'll be great.
I love it. Yeah, I wonder add to cart might make sense for someone who's just starting Facebook ads and has low data, not a lot of purchases coming in. So maybe that's an angle, but yeah, I tend to agree with.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I would love to see that also with custom conversion events where it doesn't necessarily have to be an add to cart, so I could do it with leads, and then with offline conversion events of a lead that turns into a sales call, or a business that upsells subscriptions, so that I can do purchase and then and then upsell to the subscription, or a brand that would allow them to optimize towards repeat customers because a pixel event fires when somebody buys a second time, and you get enough volume to fire on the efficiency of that, which allows you to do creative testing to find concepts that have a higher second purchase conversion rate, which will just massively unlock LTV. But hey, again, like I said, we could do a million hours on all of this stuff. We've already probably run over. I really appreciate it. I have something else I need to get to as well. I'm sure everybody's busy. But thank you guys so much. And my DMs are always open. If anybody wants to kind of QA some of this stuff, I think it would be really fun if somebody would be interested in kind of building these things in a live environment and just seeing how they apply and sort of a case study on it would be fantastic. I could say it works for me, but that's me. Like having other people actually do this stuff and make it work, I think is far more meaningful than me saying, hey, it works. And everyone's like, yeah, but you have X, Y, and Z. Yes, I do. Let's make it work for you.
Let's do it.
It could be fun.
The first three people that send us these rules live in their Triple Well account will send you some free swag. So,
there you go. Those Jambies, by the way, they're the best thing ever.
There we go.
I'll go create those rules now in a couple of accounts.
Perfect. All right,
Ilya's going to beat everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, and I'd love
Charley.
to talk with you again, following up on other things that we could do. Like, the more help I can be to other people, the better. Like, I think part of our role in this space as providers of opportunity and information is to prioritize the success of those people that have made the investment into listening to what we have to say and the work that we do. So anything I can do to help other people be as successful as they should, or have the joy that I've had, turning my life around and really making this stuff work, that is 100% worth my time. And I'll do it every day.
Love it. Well, thanks so much, Charlie. This has been amazing, super impactful. Ilya, any last words?
Send us feedback, use the rules, and hopefully that will give you just more time.
Okay.
And
awesome.
then use that time to enjoy your life.
There you go.
I'm gonna echo that. I'm always good for some good woo-woo. So we'll go with Charlie. Spend less time, enjoy life more. So
there you go. I love it.
We'll catch you all in the next webinar. Thanks so much, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.